Grab a cup of coffee and start your day with Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life features stories to inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. Visit cyacyl.com.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in. During times of transition or when we face adversity, life offers us a choice: to turn away from change or to embrace it, to shut down or to be broken open and transformed. Today's guest, Elizabeth Lesser, is here to provide tools to help us turn difficult times into times of growth and empowerment. Elizabeth is a co-founder of Omega Institute, a learning center that focuses on health, wellness, spirituality, and social change. She's a New York Times best-selling author of the books Broken Open, How Difficult Times Can Help Us Grow, and The Seeker's Guide, Making Your Life a Spiritual Adventure. For more than 30 years, Elizabeth has worked with leading figures in healing self and healing society. In 2008, she helped Oprah Winfrey produce a 10-week online seminar based on the book A New Earth. Since then, she's appeared several times on Oprah and is an ongoing host on Oprah's Soul Series, a weekly radio show on Sirius XM. Good morning, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Elizabeth, before we begin, I want to apologize to you and our listeners for my voice. I have come down with a head cold, and I hope you don't find my voice to be too distracting.
No, you sound great. You sound that kind of sexy voice that cold sometimes gives you. So,
you know, it's interesting. My engineer told me the same thing when I came in. He said, "You sound sexy." So This is going to be a first for me, sounding sexy. So thank you.
Really?
But I'm very happy that you're here. Your book, when I was reading it, it really resonated with me because it is something that I've experienced in recent years. And you open your book with a quote, "And the time came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom." A few years ago, Elizabeth, I would have never understood those words. But after going through some major life changes that have really rocked me to my core, I understand those words. I know exactly what they mean, and I understand why you opened your book with them. And when some people, you've gone through something like this, and we'll talk about that in greater detail, but to me, it looks like there are some people out there that are immune to having this type of life-altering decision or experience where they're broken down and defeated, or they need to choose to break open and transform. Do you believe that some people never experience this, or do they just ignore it and push it aside and choose not to deal with that situation?
The latter. I believe that part of the job description of being human, part of every human being's life, just by nature of being born, of having parents and siblings, and going to school, and growing older and aging, and looking at our mortality, all of those are just the most basic building blocks of being human, and all of those are difficult transitions. So no one is spared the difficulties of life. This idea that some people have to go through hard times and others don't is just not true. Everyone goes through hard times. Now, some people decide not to tangle with the difficulty in life and try to do whatever they can not to deal with it. And so it may look from the outside that, like, hey, how come I have such a messed up life and have gone through so much difficulty, and that person over there hasn't? You know, that's just not true. Everyone struggles. Everyone has an opportunity every day to be either broken down or to break open.
Elizabeth, the people who choose to break open and blossom, what type of traits have you found from your work that those people tend to embody perhaps more often than people who allow themselves to be defeated?
Well, first of all, I want to say that when you look at another person's life and about what you think that person may be going through, or has that person chosen to be broken open or not. You got to be really careful not to assume that you know what's going on with another person. It's kind of like a waste of one's time to be in comparison to, is that person breaking open, is that person broken down? It's really better more just to always look at your own life. That being said, it takes a lot of courage when a difficult situation comes your way. I always like to talk about myself only because examples are what help human beings. You can talk all this kind of theoretical, spiritual stuff, but what really works are people's stories. That's why all the great books, the Bible, all the great teaching books are stories. They're parables. So in my own life, getting married very young and having children and starting a business with my husband at the time, and then some really difficult things happening within our relationship, infidelity and things that many people could relate to in their own relationship coming my way, and knowing, okay, do I really turn and look at the truth of this marriage, or do I just kind of like gloss over it because I feel ashamed that bad things are happening to me, because I feel afraid financially? What would I do with little kids and a business I own with my husband? What would I do if I wasn't in this marriage? At that critical moment, and everybody has a moment like that, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's a job crisis, do I want to really look at the truth of this situation and also the truth of myself? What have I done to get myself into this situation? Do I really want to look at it? And do I really want to step up and make changes that would make my life work? Or do I want to stay in a situation that's just never going to be a fully alive one for me? It takes so much courage to look at life on its own terms and then make wise, difficult decisions that in the moment are really hard, but on the other side of it is freedom, is self-expression, is wisdom, and is a whole new life. So I would say the first quality, if you ask me what does it take to be the kind of person who breaks open as opposed to breaking down, is courage. The courage to live life to the fullest.
And Elizabeth, some people might be sitting there saying, well, I don't have courage. But courage is something that we all have within us. And as you're saying, it takes, this is going to sound crazy, but it takes courage to find your courage. You have to really look within you to figure out how to face it. And that's really what courage is.
Yes, and the root of the word courage is from the French coeur, which is heart. And that's a little secret about where you find courage. You find courage not in some sort of classical warrior idea of like, no pain, no gain, life sucks, and I'm just going to carry on. That is a kind of brittle, false courage. True courage, and I learned this not only through life itself, but through one of my teachers, a Tibetan meditation teacher who had actually led his people in Tibet when he was just a young monk over the Himalayas to escape the communist Chinese into India. His name was Chogyam Trungpa, and he wrote a book called The Path of the Spiritual Warrior. And by spiritual warrior, he said, a spiritual warrior is someone who is vulnerable, who allows himself to feel the pain of what's going on and not to do everything you can to escape the pain, like more work, more food, more sex, more things, more running around. No, to sit quietly in the pain of whatever is going on and to ask it, what have you come to show me? I'm going to sit here and really feel what's going on in my heart, my core, where the courage lives, and I'm going to let the pain tell me what to do. Now, that may sound like, what? I don't understand what you're talking about. It's one of those things that you will only understand if you do it and if you turn it into a practice. And by practice, I actually mean some kind of spiritual, psychological practice. By practice, it's like, anyone who has a kid who plays basketball, or you remember from your own playing the piano, it's like tedious things over and over that you do, basketball drills, piano scales. You do them over and over until you've trained yourself. That's what meditation is. That's what prayer is. That's what psychotherapy is. There are these things that feel so kind of, is this really going anywhere? But you train yourself to listen to your deeper heart. You train yourself to find the answers within.
Well, and it's interesting because you keep using the word train yourself and choose. And I think that that's really a key point. People say to me, after what I've gone through, you're so brave, you're so strong, I can't do that. And I tell them that's not so. I just chose because I didn't like the alternative. And when you're saying that it's important for us to, you work at it. You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to overcome my fear. It's a conscious decision to make the choice. And as you're saying, you train yourself, you do whatever it takes to face what needs to be done, to learn from it, grow, and move forward.
Mm-hmm. You know how, like, anyone who's gone to the gym and made that New Year's Eve resolution, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do my yoga, whatever it is, to get your body in shape, and you're building it up, and you're building your muscles, and it feels so good, and then, of course, you fall off the wagon, and you stop doing it. And you know how quickly you can lose muscle tone, how quickly you can put those pounds back on and get out of shape, and then you go back to the gym, and you do your weightlifting and your aerobics, and it's like, oh man, I feel so good, I'm so strong again. It's the same thing with your inner strength, like what you were talking about, your own inner strength to face the challenge you went through. You can develop muscles for inner strength, but it takes constant working on it, and it's a choice.
Elizabeth, we need to take a break for this week's Good Life Tips. Stay with us for information to help you make the positive life changes that we talk about on the show. When we return, I will continue my discussion with Elizabeth Lesser. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Our guest today is Elizabeth Lesser, author of the book, Broken Open, How Difficult Times Can Help Us Grow. Elizabeth, before break, we were talking about how we can develop our inner strength in order to face life challenges. And what would be some of your advice to help us transform the pain into strength, acceptance, and awakening?
Well, I would say the first tip I have, it may surprise you all, it's to understand with all your brain cells that there's nothing uniquely wrong with you that you're struggling with life. A big stumbling block toward developing inner strength is this idea that there's something shameful about the very fact that we're struggling. There's like, everybody else out there seems to be doing better. She doesn't seem to be having trouble with her marriage. He doesn't seem to be like wanting a new career. Why am I so restless? Why is my life not working? Why is my kid doing bad in school? Oh, I should just kind of like be quiet and there's something wrong with me. This is a huge problem all of us humans have. The great Persian Sufi poet Rumi talked about the open secret, that we keep a secret from each other. We think we're keeping the secret, that you wake up in the morning and you think, gosh, there's something wrong with me. Everybody else has it together, and I'm just a schlump. I have something wrong with me. That's the secret each one of us is keeping from each other. We're looking around and thinking everybody else has it all together. The open part of this open secret is that we're all keeping the same secret from each other. It's kind of a joke, but it's very sad because we don't open up to each other and admit our vulnerability. We say, "Hi, how are you?" "Oh, fine, I'm great. How are you?" "Oh, fine." And then everybody goes away from each other thinking, "Oh, I wonder what's wrong with me." So the first strategy for developing inner strength is being honest and vulnerable with each other. It's amazing how much strength you can gain if somebody says, "How are you?" and you say, "I'm really having a hard time these days. I don't even know why, but I'm just struggling." That is an invitation to the other person to say, "Oh my gosh, so am I." And suddenly you're both free of that sense that there's something inherently wrong with you.
That's why I opened the show with the question that I did, because if someone was sitting home thinking, well, I'm the only one with this problem, everyone else has it made, I wanted you to tell them right from the beginning that everyone goes through tough times. So I'm really glad that you brought that up as your first tip.
It isn't even that everybody goes through tough times. It's that everyone is born human. That to be human, I happen to think that the human experience is some kind of strange school we've landed in, where the rules are, okay, soul, you're going to come here onto this plane of existence to learn how to grow through adversity. That's what this school is about. And the minute you accept that, the rules of this particular game we're in here, this storyline, that's what it's about here. I mean, nature will tell you that if you look at it. The flower blossoms out of the mud, the lotus flower, which is the emblem of Buddhism. It's the flower, the beautiful flower that blossoms out of the mud. That's what happens here. Every day is a challenge for us humans. The minute you accept that, with a sense of humor, with a sense of like, that's where I am. That's what this plane is all about. This feeling of shame and isolation from the rest of us lessens, goes away, and then you're just sort of proud of your own funny life and the particular challenges that you have been given in order to grow and blossom out of the mud.
So nothing is wrong with you except that life's a spiritual adventure. Can you give us one more tip before we run out of time?
Yeah, well, a good way to remind yourself over and over that nothing is wrong with you and that life is an adventure is to spend a little time quietly every day with yourself, with your body, with your breathing. It's called meditation. It's a beautiful practice that can put you in touch every day. Just remind you. It's just a reminder every day. Wake up, experience this adventure. Whatever comes your way today, fully experience it with no shame, just with a light-hearted sense of adventure.
The book is Broken Open, How Difficult Times Can Help Us Grow by Elizabeth Lesser. Elizabeth, where can our listeners go to get more information about you and your work?
Well, they can go to the Omega Institute website, which is the letter E, the word omega.org. And they can follow me on Facebook, and they can read my books.
And as always, our listeners can visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on our site, listen to past shows as podcasts, read the digital magazine, sign up for our mailing list, take part in the book club, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Elizabeth, in about 30 seconds or less, what would be one thing that you would really like our listeners to take away from this interview?
That their life is a precious opportunity, that no one else has the particular DNA and background and soul that they have, and we want to know it. We want to see your soul. We want you to be your wild and free self, so show it to us.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for spending time with us. The time goes by so quickly, and I'm really happy that you were here to share these lessons with us. Your book is wonderful. As I said, it really resonated with me, so I do recommend that people read a copy of Broken Open. And I think that it's time for us to learn to go with the flow and stop swimming against it. And it really is a beautiful thing when we blossom and break open. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. I'm Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.